Hello, my name is Kate Lambert, and I am here with you today to discuss marketing your products. Right here in Missouri, which is where we live, farm, and I work, we have transitioned our farm to offering more direct-to-consumer and consumer experience opportunities. Now, my husband's on the farm full-time, very traditional sixth-generation farmer with corn, soybeans, and cows. I didn't grow up on a farm, grew up outside of Chicago, about 60 miles west of the city. And when I came here, I said, I want to do some fun things. For a long time, he shot me down, but eventually he got on board. And we have started direct-to-consumer beef and lamb sales, as well as a seasonal pumpkin patch and corn maze called Uptown Farms right here in north central Missouri. Now, one of the interesting things about our farm that has been a challenge, but an opportunity as well, is that we're in an extremely rural area. So when we were looking at other organizations, other farms that were doing what we wanted to do, it was difficult, I'll say impossible, to find a model that looked just like ours because we're so rural. We didn't even know if it would work. Will people pay for direct-to-consumer beef and lamb here? Heck, will people in Lynn County even eat lamb? Will people come and buy pumpkins and experience that when they could go into the city and experience a much larger operation that's offering similar things? So it's been a learning curve for us, but it's been a wonderful journey, an incredible opportunity to engage in our community, and has added some fantastic diversity to our farm that just really has been a blessing. In addition to those fun things, I do work full-time off of the farm for our farm credit cooperative right here in the state of Missouri called FCS Financial. I actually work with our marketing team where I lead up our marketplace engagement efforts and have got the great privilege of working with our young beginning producers as well as leading some of our educational efforts and outreach here in the state of Missouri. This opportunity has given me the amazing exposure to work with so many different producers that are trying new things, whether it's traditional corn, soybeans, cattle, hogs, that they're looking at marketing in different ways, they're looking at producing in different ways, or they're really going out of the box and trying something totally new. It's really fantastic to see all of the amazing things that are happening in agriculture and the amazing conversations getting to happen as we bring urban and suburban people together with those of us that are producing the food, fuel, and fiber, and getting to just have great conversations and dialogue about what they want and how we can meet those needs. Today, we're going to have a conversation about marketing your product and marketing you and why those two things go together. Give me just a moment here to bring up my slides. All right, I think we are now ready that you can see my slides. Again, the title of this presentation is Marketing Your Product, Marketing You. We're going to talk so much about why you can't separate those two things and why it's so important to be strategic and intentional in this space. Now, I'm going to assume that so many of you are like my husband and like myself, that when you dove into farming, whether you're brand new to growing things or your family has been doing this since as long as there has been documented history of what your family has been doing, you entered into the space because you like to grow and raise things. You like to be outside. You like to have your hands in the dirt. What sometimes we forget is that once we get that product, we've raised that calf, we've got this beautiful freezer full of beef, or we've raised these pumpkins, we've raised apples, or we've created whiskey or wine, we've done all the fun things. Now we have to find somebody to buy it. And oftentimes our goal is to find somebody to buy it at the value, the premium that it's worth, not trying to be the low-cost competitor. So how do we go about making that happen? Let's talk about it. Key topics we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about differentiating your brand and differentiating your product, communicating your value. So once we've differentiated those things and established what makes my brand different, what makes my product unique, how are we telling people that? And then finally, nurturing customers and prospects. So let's talk about a brand. We throw this word around like crazy, and most people have sort of an idea. If I say brand, they think Nike or McDonald's. They'll think of a slogan or a logo, And that kind of conjures up what they think of when we say brand. So most people have a little bit of an idea, but I want to give you a definition that I really like. A brand is all of the elements that a company uses to create recognition and portray an image about a product, service, or the organization itself. Now, notice the part that is in bold here because this is so important. A brand is controlled by the organization, okay? So whether I'm talking about FCS Financial and our marketing team and all of our staff, and we say, okay, we've got this very specific logo, we have these very specific colors, we have pictures that we're going to use when we talk about FCS Financial. We have messaging, words. When you encounter one of our staff members, the way that we talk about our products and services in FCS Financial, whether it's somebody who answers the desk or answers the phone or sits at the front desk in one of our branch offices, it's a loan officer or a crop insurance agent, or it's Dave, our CEO, there's going to be certain words that they use in a way that they describe our organization. That is all part of the brand. We control all of that. All of those things, the colors, the logos, the image, the messaging, the pictures we use, that's something that we control and we push out. Now, the response to that, or in other words, how people feel about all of those things we push at them, that's our brand image. And this is what's going to be crucial for you to understand as you enter into marketing your product. The brand image is the way the target audience actually perceives the brand, how they feel about it. Bold letters again, brand image is controlled by the target audience. Brand image is not static, it's not stationary, it's not the same. I might have a really positive brand image with one group of people, and I might have a really negative brand image with some others. If I'm not careful, I can alienate large groups of people in the things that I do and in the words that I choose, and they may have a really poor brand image. So always keep this in mind. You can think of some organizations out there that have got really passionate followers. I happen to be a runner, and I run in a shoe that's an ASIC GT 2000, and I am really passionate about that particular running shoe. But at the same time, there's a brand that you'll know called Nike. And years ago, I ran in a Nike, and it's too narrow for my foot box, and it really caused me some trouble. And I do not have a positive brand image of Nike running shoes. Now, there's some other people out there who would tell you the exact opposite. They would say that ASICs are garbage and Nike is the way to go. And so you can see, even inside that target audience of runners, there's going to be differing opinions on and differing feelings about certain brands. So that is controlled by the target audience, but essentially it's how they feel. Now let's talk about your personal brand and image. Same concept, right? Your personal brand. These are all of the things that you do about you, how you show up, how you present yourself, how you speak, the things you share and engage in on social media, the things you do in your community. These are all of the things that you do and you present that you control to tell people what your brand is. How people respond to that, how they feel about it, that's your brand image, and it's controlled by others. Important to remember, because we're going to talk about how your brand image and your organization, your farm's image are linked together. Right here, your image equals your organization's brand image. Now, for a lot of organizations, the rule is that the more control or more visibility an individual has, the more power to impact the brand, the image the individual has. So, and when I say brand, I mean brand image. So let's take a really large multinational company, for example. Say they have 50,000 employees and they do business all over the globe. A person that works in their factory that has no visibility, has no control over what the organization does. They work Monday to Friday. They come in and they do their job, and they probably do it phenomenally. But then they go home. If that person goes out and does something crazy on the weekend and ends up in the newspaper, the likelihood of that really impacting the organization, even if it was something real crazy, is fairly slim. Now, let's talk about the chairman of the board or the CEO of this massive company. If the CEO leaves on Friday night and goes out and does something really crazy and ends up in jail and ends up in the newspaper, you bet they're going to talk about where that person works and the fact that they're the CEO of this multinational company. They have more power and more visibility. So their personal brand image has got the potential to impact the organization's brand image to a much higher degree. So what does this matter to you? Well, I'm going to make the assumption that if you're in farming and you're selling direct to consumer or in a niche market space, the reality is that you probably are incredibly visible and have probably almost complete autonomy in the running of your business. You are your business. You have the control. You make the decisions. Therefore, you're the CEO. You're the person that people are going to look to help establish what that brand image is of the organization. You cannot separate yourself. You're going to hear me say this so many times over the next few minutes. You cannot separate yourself from your organization. So you have to be so strategic and intentional in how you present yourself in so many spaces. I love this quote from Warren Buffett. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Just let that sink in. 20 years to build it and 5 minutes to ruin it. We see this happen absolutely all of the time in today's world. It is nothing new. This has happened since the beginning of time, since man has been conducting business. This is the reality of how it is. But it's probably more visible now. These reactions can happen more swiftly. We know about them more, but we can think of organizations and people that have made a poor decision and it have really been impacted almost immediately. And it's very hard to recover from some of those things. So here's questions, and I'm going to throw a lot of questions at you today. So if you're watching this at your desk, have a piece of paper and write down these questions, because if you really want to go back to your operation and you want to make strategic and intentional difference, then be ready to answer these questions. So here you go, the considerations for brand image. How do you show up on social media? How does your brand show up on social media? Do you have a farm page like I do? I've got an Uptown Farms page and I have a Kate Lambert on a Facebook page. Are those things consistent? I know this one over here, I've got it locked down and it's only for my friends, and I could be as crazy as I wanted to over here. But the reality is it's not locked down. Anybody could see it if they really wanted to try hard enough. So I have to say, how is Kate showing up? How is Uptown Farm showing up? Right? And make sure that those things are consistent. How do I show up in the community? How do you show up in the community? How does your brand show up in the community? Finally, do you really want to speak into that? Does your brand really want to speak into that? My goodness, with the power of these smartphones, right? We can, at the drop of a hat, be engaging in any conversation, any debate, weighing in, advocating for issues at any time, any hour of the day that we want to do that. Okay, and sometimes it's fun. We get an adrenaline rush from that sort of communication, that sort of back and forth. But what I want you to do is pause. Now, again, you have full autonomy in your business, right? That's one of the great things about farming and being a producer in this space, is that you have full autonomy. You get to decide what you want to do. So if you want to go and advocate for an issue and you fully understand, you stop and you say, you know, this thing is important enough to me. I know this is going to alienate some customers. I know some people in the community are going to choose not to do business with me because of the stance I took, but I think the cost or the benefits outweigh the cost. Then by all means, do that. Just don't fly off the seat of your pants, rush into these things. Don't do it without recognizing that there is cost associated with that type of behavior. Okay? So I just want you to stop, think, and say, do I really want to speak into that? Is it worth it to alienate some customers and potentially never do business with certain sets of people because of things that I chose to speak into or ways I chose to behave? Quick review on social media best practices, super quick, never engage in back and forth. It just doesn't work, folks. It's not the place for it. Not only is it like emotional, I mean, the data we're getting that tells us how emotionally hard this is for us, even though we get the rush of endorphins while we're engaging in that back and forth, what we feel afterwards, the amount of time we spend, the anxiety, the regret, the time we spend thinking I should have worded that different. Oh, I should have said this, not worth it. And you're not going to change any hearts and feelings. What you are going to do, people that may be potential customers are going to be browsing that and see that, and they're going to think, man, that guy's really an idiot. And they may not do business with you because of it. Now, I'm not saying you're an idiot. I am fully convinced you're not. But do you really want to, speak into things again? It just goes right back to that conversation. Do you want to present yourself in that way to people that, lots of people are going to see that? Don't use social media as a place to joke. I know if you are, I've got some high school buddies and they share some of the funniest, they're funny, just some of the funniest things on social media, and you laugh at them. And once in a while, I'll find myself going to click the laughing face on that. And I'm like, ooh, you know what? I can kind of laugh to myself in this, but understanding back to this very bottom point on this slide, remember who I am and what I represent. I kind of laugh about it, but I wouldn't stand up on a stage in the community and share that same joke. And so I really shouldn't engage with it. I can laugh in my head and I can think it's funny that they did it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I need to share it. And we could go through this whole, people should lighten up. We all need to laugh more. People shouldn't be as offended. Yeah. I get that. And maybe that's all true. But for me, in my farm, in Uptown Farms, that sort of engagement is not worth making customers feel like I offended them, or making customers feel like they're not welcome to come and visit us because of something that I engaged in, or making people think I'm ignorant because I really don't understand the breadth of an issue that I was making a joke at or laughing at a joke about. And so I don't choose to do those things. I just don't think the benefits outweigh the risk associated with that. Don't assume things are private. It's not. I don't care what your settings are. It's just not. Don't ever assume it is. Always assume you're standing on a stage in front of your community. Don't use offensive language, photos, or videos. Number one, same thing, like how people are going to feel about it. But number two, getting yourself into trouble on these social media platforms and locking up your ability to be able to use the platforms by not following their guidelines and going into Facebook jail. You don't want to do that. That severely hinders your ability to reach people. And if you continuously do things like that, even if you get access back into those platforms algorithms are smart enough. They're going to shrink the people that are seeing your content. They're going to reduce your reach. So just don't do that. It's not helping on your personal page, your farm page. It's not helping your cause. So just act like an adult, be professional. Remember, you're not in the garage with your buddies. You're not standing in the shop on a Friday evening. You are on a stage in front of the entire community. And if you show up with that in mind, you'll be just fine. Always think before you post. This is my parents and preachers rule. Before I post, comment, engage in anything, I always stop and say, okay, my mama's on Facebook and Pastor Joel is on Facebook. And I'm friends with both of them. So what are they going to think if I engage in this, if I share it? What are they going to think? I call that the parents and preachers rule. It's one I use with my high school and college students when I'm giving a presentation to them. Just always keep that in your back of your mind. And again, you're going to show up right if you just remember who's seeing it. Be positive, consistent, and real. My goodness, do not get on social media and use it as a place to complain and gripe and tear down business and tear down our industry. That negativity will become part of your brand. It will become part of your brand. Again, those are the things you control that you put out there. You can't control how people feel about it. And I just guarantee you that most people don't feel well. They don't respond positively to other people's negativity. So don't use it for a place like that. Now, these next two bullets are so important. These are huge opportunities and tools that people overlook. Number one, be willing to listen. And number two, go find ways, seek out communities of people that are different that you can listen to. Give you an example. One of the things that we sell here is direct-to-consumer beef. So I am in several different Facebook groups of local people and then moms. Why am I in those groups? Because I love hearing those people talk about beef. I want to hear them talk about their experiences, their challenges. Where are they finding beef? What are they looking for? What are they confused about? I can just go into those things and I can listen, okay? One cool thing I found out when I was listening in one of those groups is that people don't realize or don't understand when they go to a farm. They're used to buying groceries on a week to week, and they go to a farm and they're going to buy some beef and they want to buy a month's worth of beef. They were really struggling with, how much should I buy? What are these different cuts of meat? There's so much more variety. They call them different things than what they are in the grocery stores. And I could listen, read the comments, and it really allowed some changes in the way that we market our beef, the way that we talk about it, how we might package some product. So don't ever underestimate the tool in terms of being able to just gain market information and do research. What are people saying? What are they talking about? But you have to be willing to listen and go find people different than you. Go find people that feel differently politically and about the products you're raising. And if you're raising conventional product, go find people who are buying organic product and understand what's happening in those spaces. It's such a cool tool, and you can use it to your advantage if you do it correctly. Here's why all of this matters. I'm going to read this to you while you read it with me. The willingness of people to engage with, seek information from, and ultimately support organizations, that's you, that's your farm, all boils down to how they feel about the organization. And how they feel about the organization is 100% dictated by how they feel about the people that represent the organization. That's you. If they're going to do business with you, it boils down to how they feel about you. Assuming that very few, if any of us, are the low-cost provider in these spaces, right? You can probably go to the local major chain grocery store and buy a dozen eggs for cheaper than what you're selling a dozen eggs for, or buy a bottle of wine for less than what you're selling your wine for, buy cheese, buy whatever, beef, lamb. You can certainly go to the local store and buy a pumpkin cheaper than what you can come to my farm and buy a pumpkin. So we're not the low-cost provider, which means they're choosing to do business with us because of value that we bring. They are going to determine if they like us or they don't, and that will dictate whether they will pay that premium. All right, let's talk about product differentiation. One of the things I want you to think about as we're talking about this, write this down if you're writing things down. Why will people buy this product? Why should people buy this product? What problem does this product solve? Okay, so seriously, write that down. What problem does your product solve? Why should people buy it? And this will help you answer the question of product differentiation. What's unique about it? Notice the second bullet point here. For so many of us, the farm story, right? The fact that, and I tell people this all the time, my grocery store, but we've got a whole bunch of mama cows. We have got more mama cows than we could ever sell direct to consumer. I told you we're in the super rural community. I love it. I love this fact. Our county has 4 times as many mama cows as we do people, right? So we raise way too much beef here to sell it all direct. So most of our product, of course, goes through the normal supply chain and ends up in the grocery store. Okay. So if somebody can go to the local grocery store and they can buy my beef, or somebody's beef that's just like me, or they can come to the farm and buy my beef, then it's the same product. Why are they going to come to the farm and pay a little bit more than when they can just go to the grocery store? The reality is that they want to come and support me. They want to have the experience of coming to the farm, engaging. They want to know. Now, when they go to the grocery store, they can know that it's super safe. It comes from family farms, just like us. Probably went through a very similar finishing process to what it's experiencing here. But they come here and they know, man, that calf was born right here. It was fed Lynn County grass. It was fed Lynn County grain, and I'm buying a product from Matt and Kate. So our story is what differentiates our product. Okay, and for most of you, 99% of you, that story is at least part of the differentiating factor for your product. So just remember that. So I've got a challenge listed here, and this is something near and dear to my heart, something that this is part of our business plan, part of our marketing and communication rule here for our farm. I'm gonna offer this challenge to you too. How do you celebrate your product? How do you market and sell yourself and your products and your farm without creating unfounded fear around other products? So I hinted at this just a minute ago. People come here all the time and they say, oh, I'm so glad to be able to buy some beef right off of the farm because I don't want to buy it from the grocery store. I never let that comment pass. The reality is that the food supply in this country is incredibly safe. It's incredibly effective. It's affordable. Okay, there's millions of people that cannot afford to participate in the food markets that many of us are trying to sell in, right? I am not the right beef provider for everybody here off of the farm. I do not want to do things that scare people away from buying beef from another farmer, from buying beef from the farmer's market, from buying beef from the large grocery store in town. Okay, creating fear around that product, number one, that is going to start to slowly erode at my reputation. If I'm always crying foul at all these other things, this organization is bad, this type of product is bad, this product will kill you. If I'm doing that, that adds to my brand, right? And number two, it is just kind of the sucker punch. It is a really cheap strategy. It's unfounded. So let's celebrate agriculture. I challenge you to celebrate all of our producers. There's really an amazing story with American agriculture to tell about the safety and quality of our food. And you don't have to do that. There's so many people who want to come and experience the farm and buy direct and know who their farmer is, and they're willing to pay for that. You don't have to make them afraid using unfounded information and misguided information. You don't have to do that to make them come buy your products. You can celebrate agriculture and they will still come and buy products from you, I promise. So I'm challenging you, find ways that you can do that without tearing down other aspects of our industry. Now, let's talk about communicating your value. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what problem, that answering that product and that brand differentiation. What is your story? What is your product solving? Why should people do business with you? Why should they buy from you and your farm? Answer those questions. Now let's talk about how we can communicate that. I am going to really quite literally go through some tools. These are some tools that we can use to communicate. I would encourage you right now, write this down. I want you to write this down, and then sometime in the next few days, I want you to go and audit your current communication strategy, okay? And some of you might be saying, well, communication strategy, I don't really have a strategy. I just, put stuff out on Facebook, or I put a flyer up at the grocery store, or, okay, that is a strategy, and it's a poor one. So audit your current communication strategy. And I want you to answer these questions. Who are you talking to now? Okay, wherever you're at, whatever you're using, how do people know about, and what type of people know about whatever it is that you're doing? Okay, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. We have a great, I'm so blessed on Facebook. Facebook is kind of my playground, right? I know Insta is taking off, and everybody says I should have a Snapchat filter. I hear all that, but I am an older millennial, and Facebook is my playground, and that is where we have really connected with a lot of people. However, if I do an audit of my communications, I know very quickly, because I don't put as much energy and time into other platforms, I'm missing a whole host of people, okay? And just a few years ago, and just back last year was the first year that we started doing radio advertising, because I recognized that there is a group of people that they're not on those social media platforms, and we had kind of outgrown, we've gotten enough awareness, and now that we don't need to continue there. But there's a whole group of people, grandparents, we're kind of one of those target audience for the pumpkin patch. Hey, a lot of grandparents, some of them are on social media, but a lot of them that are there aren't really prolific users of it, or very expert users of it. So they may not know how to find our page, find the group, find information, or they just simply may not be on there enough to be aware, but they do still listen to the local radio. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to audit your current communication plan. Think about who is listening, who absorbs information through those mediums that you're using, and then start to say, okay, who else do I need to be talking to? So I told you grandparents. Last year, we made concentrated effort to talk to grandparents that could, have this experience. And I could go into this whole, right? If mom and dad are going to take the kids, they're probably going to drive, an hour and a half and go to the big fancy pumpkin farm. We're not a big fancy, we're a little deal. They're going to drive and go to the big fancy farm. But if grandma only has a couple hours with the grandkids, I had a better chance of getting grandma here. And so I needed to make sure that I was talking to grandma and grandpa, primarily grandma. She's going to be the one statistically who's going to, drive that ship, and grandpa's going to begrudgingly come along. Now he's going to have a great time here, but she's going to make the decision to bring the grandkids. So how do I talk to grandma? Well, I started looking, it's like, man, we're using Facebook and email as primary drivers. I don't know if we're hitting her. And so we did some specials, and we brought some value add by doing some specials for grandparents. And then we started radio advertising to say, hey, let's make sure that we're hitting this target audience. So do that audit. Ask yourself, who are you talking to? What spaces are you engaging in? What audiences are you hitting? Who do you need to be talking to, and where can you go to make sure that you're hitting that audience. Now I'm going to fly through some tools that you need to be thinking about. The website. Some people say, oh, you don't need a website anymore. You need a website. This is kind of the permanent hub for your information. You've got to be able to link somewhere. You've got to be able to house all this information in a central location. This is going to be things that have got, you know, the who, what, how, where. How am I buying this product? Where do I buy this product? Why should I buy this product? For us, it's got address, open hours, the phone number, frequently asked questions, admission price, all those things. This does not have to be complicated. There are so many amazing tools. We use a program called Weebly. It's super cheap. It's super easy. I do not know HTML code. There's dozens of these out there. WordPress is another one I hear talked about a lot. Just go out there and start a website. It could have one page on it. You need a website. I will encourage you to pay for your little bit. People, you got to pay a little bit. You know, so ours is uptownsheath.com. You got to pay a little bit, but it's worth it. Do that. It doesn't have to be complicated. People are not like, unless you are going to go spend a whole bunch of money, people are not going to find the website on your own. So do not go get a website, check the box and say, okay, and just sit back and wait for people to roll in. It's not going to happen. This is a place. Think of it kind of like a storefront in the digital space, right? And it's not even a storefront. It's like the back of the store. When people walk in to the business, okay, now we're in the website. So what's that storefront? What's directing people to that store? These are some of the other tools. The primary one, social media, okay? Social media is the front of your store, right? It's the billboard, the big blinking lights that say, come here, come here, come here. Social media is going to be a phenomenal tool to create awareness of who you are and what you do. However, the one thing I want you to continuously be asking yourself, how can I convert my social media followers to another communication media? I need to get them on my website. I need to get them on my email. I need to get them on my text messaging list because social media is not consistent. You cannot control who Facebook is going to show your post to. I'm sorry, you just can't. I had some crazy post a few days ago about our goat. We have a billy goat that we needed to rehome. And I wrote a little funny story about him. And 100,000 people seen the darn post about the billy goat. Okay, and that's great. I got the billy goat a new home. But when I go out and post, hey, we can't open today because it's raining. The weather can't open today. Guess how many people see that? Right, 42. 42 people see that, and 6 of them are my friends and family up in Illinois. Okay, so this is not a consistent means of communication because not everyone is going to see it. So you've got to say, how can I get the people that really want to engage with our brand? How do I get them moved over? Well, the answer is you get them on your email list, you get them to sign up for text messages, you teach them where your website is, you get them in your Facebook group. And you'll see that kind of down there. We'll talk about that. But that's really what you need to be doing in the space. You tell your story, you share value pieces, you share tips and tricks and all those sorts of things. But really you need to be converting people over and giving them ample opportunity to find other ways to engage with you. Get them on the email list, get them to your website, get them to sign up for text messages. Now, you've got to understand the platforms of the tools that you're using, understand the algorithms, best practices, spend some time to know what you're doing. Now, Facebook groups versus Facebook pages, you need both. Groups allow for a lot more engagement. More people that are in the group are guaranteed to see the content, get an alert that something was posted in there versus Facebook pages. I told you the algorithm for those things, it's hit or miss. You don't know who's going to see it and who's not. So really think about ways to use both of those tools. I just want to quickly show you this because a lot of people don't put much time or thought into the social media algorithm. But every single post that you put out is going to generate a score. That score is going to be different from user to user. Okay. So how is it, what determines what shows up in your newsfeed? I'm going to give this the perspective to you as you, the consumer. Okay. So what determines what's going to show up in your newsfeed? Well, the first thing is interest. Have whatever this post is, right? And those tools, they're creepily good. They scan posts and it says, have you shown interest in a post like this before? Right? So if I'm, or in other content like this before. So the other day, I've been shopping for, this is so funny. I've been shopping for a mop. This is such a mom thing. My mop handle broke, and you know, we've got these hardwood floors, but then I have a basement floor. So it's like, I want the right mop, and I'm going to spend like $20 on this thing, right? But I'm Googling it, learning about it. And of course, so when I go get on Facebook, what happens? Okay, all these posts about mops show up in my newsfeed. So have you shown interest in something like this before? The post itself, what type of post, and you'll see the T down there, but the post itself, how well is it performing? Okay, so have I shown interest in this? The post itself, how well is it performing? So my rule of thumb, if you put something out and 30 minutes later, it's got no engagement, nobody's seen it, nobody's liked it, nobody's commented on it, delete it. Try again later. Don't worry, don't be like, oh my gosh, people are gonna think I'm always deleting posts. Nobody's seen it, right? If nobody's seen it, no one's seen it, get rid of it and try again later. Hit reword it, new graphic, post it at a different time. But you need engagement within the first few minutes. That's what's really going to set the thing off. Okay, that's why the Billy Goat post, I told you it did so good. Like within a few minutes of posting it, a couple people thought it was really funny. They laughed at it, they shared it. Well, boom, now that thing is off and running. Versus what I told you before, really relevant information I need to get to a select group of customers. Hey, we're closed today because of the rain. Well, it's not funny. I'm not going to share it. I'm just going to see it. I'm going to go, oh, okay, shoot, we can't go to the pumpkin patch today, but I'm not going to do anything with it. So those posts just don't, they don't create as much traction. The creator of that post. Number one, have you engaged with that creator before? So again, back to your newsfeed, what's popping in there. If you've shown interest in that, you've engaged in it, you laugh at all their stuff, you share their stuff, you're more likely to see more information from that. Also, how does that creator do historically with other people and other people that are like you? Is it somebody who pushes out a post every hour? Big no, violating Facebook rules. Don't do that. Is it somebody that's just putting all the spam stuff out? Nobody engages in it, nobody uses it, nobody reads it. Well, those are going to be lower visibility, lower score. Is it somebody who does something, once a day, every other day, a few times a week, and when they do, it blows up? Well, more people are going to see that stuff. Facebook's going to say, people like this content, we're going to show it to you. The type of post. So my husband, video watcher, he loves to watch videos on social media. He doesn't spend very much time in that space, but when he does, he engages video. That's how he likes to consume information. I don't really consume video. I just don't pay a lot of attention to it. So I get more links and static posts where in his newsfeed, he's going to see more video content. And then the recency of it, okay? The more recent the post, again, the more likely people are going to see to it. Back to that 30-minute rule. If nothing's happening with it in 30 minutes, it's just going to die. So try it again later. So just kind of keep that in mind. And I talk a lot about, again, Facebook and these things, but the algorithm concepts are similar across the platforms. Just understand some of those nuanced rules for the place that you are playing in. Now let's transition to email. Email, I can get this to the inbox. I can almost, if I get a good email address, I can guarantee delivery, right? Facebook as social media is not that way. I can push out a post. I cannot guarantee you will or will not see it, right? So get people on the email list. Super important. Get them on the email list. Can't guarantee that they'll open it, but you can do some things to increase the likelihood that people will open it. So this is kind of your backup to social media. Again, you go back way when we were talking about doing things that put you in Facebook jail. Okay, well, if you get suspended on social media platforms, or if it's technology is down, my gosh, remember that one day that was crazy? People lost their minds. That was so funny. Facebook was down for a few hours, and it was like, oh my goodness, what's happening in the world? Okay, here's your backup, right? Not number one, if those things happen and you need to communicate with people. Number two, people on your email list that come and take that added step of opting in and signing up to receive your emails. We know these are really engaged customers or prospects, so we want to, make sure and nurture that. Be respectful of frequency and relevancy. Okay, my husband bought me a Christmas present. He bought me a Christmas present on a Facebook ad of all places, and right after that, immediately for months afterwards, he gets like 7 or 8 or 10 emails a day from this organization, and it drives him bonkers. Finally, I showed him how to mark it as spam. So now that he marked it as spam, he will never see information from that company again. He found it on Facebook. He's marked him as spam. He hid him on Facebook because I showed him how to do that. And so the likelihood of him ever buying anything again from that company is zero. Now, the product came as a great Christmas present. I loved it. He loved it. We would have done business with them again, but they just abused their communication power. It was just excessive. So don't do that. Be frequent, be top of mind. If you've got something valuable to say, then say it, but don't just be blowing up people's inboxes just to blow up their inboxes. It's going to get you marked as spam. Be respectful. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Again, there's lots of tools out there that you can send mass email through. Just make sure you understand the legal guidelines in your state. Okay, there's certain things you have to give, certain options you have to provide people. Follow those. And then, of course, be authentic in your communication. Text messaging is huge. There's so much potential here, but I have to caveat this. You have to pay attention to the legal requirements in your state and for the type of text messaging you are sending. There are requirements for mass text communication, okay? If you're sending a sales text soliciting business, that's totally different than sending an awareness about an event you're having. So you need to know what those differences are. You need to make sure you're not breaking any laws. And again, be respectful. You do not want people to opt out once they have signed up. So we've gone through some of the really kind of up and coming, I wouldn't call them up and coming, they've been here forever, but some of these digital strategies for communicating in what we're doing with local products. Oftentimes, many of us, some of you probably have markets that are different than local, but many of us are probably focusing on a local community and a local effort. Do not underestimate the power of being present in your community. Show up places, let people know what you're doing. Be a part of your chamber of commerce. Farms often forget about things like that. Go to your farmers markets if it works with your schedule. Find ways that you can show up and be present in your community. Treat your marketing efforts strategically and intentionally like a business, and it will pay off. Now, let's talk about nurturing your business. Current customers are your greatest asset, okay? They will, if they have a great experience with you, if they love the product, and I have no doubt that the things you're raising are amazing. I have no doubt at all that your products are awesome. So if we can get customers who love those products, let's get them so excited about us that they tell their neighbor. So find ways to thank them. Recognize, even if you don't remember their name, recognize when somebody comes and buys something from you again that they've been out before. Ask them about their last time, thank them for being there. And then there are some tools out there that you can use to help you remember customers who have done a lot of business with you. So in Facebook Messenger, the business page, you can actually make notes about people. In Square or different POS systems, they might have ways you can link when they pay with the same credit card that you can make notes, or PayPal. So use some of those tools to start to create familiarity with your customers and let them know that they matter to you. Now, if somebody sends someone to you, acknowledge that referral. So our LAM, the number one driver of our LAM sales is word of mouth, right? Because it just is a unique product. There's not really anywhere else in the county that people can get lamb. Some people don't even know if they like lamb or not. So they will hear somebody say, yeah, you know, we had these lamb steaks. You should go out to Matt and Kate's. You could get some out there. So we know that the number one driver of that lamb business is just word of mouth. So when I know that a customer sent somebody out to us, I make it a point to find a way to thank them for that referral because it's so huge for your business. And then reward existing customers. So the other night when we had our May beef sale, we, inside of our Facebook group and inside our email, we gave a special that was just for the people that are in the Facebook group and just for the people on the email list. They had to tell us when they came up, hey, don't forget I'm on the email list, so I get, you know, that extra pound of ground beef. But that's just a reward. It's being part of the club. It's thanking them and making them feel like they're part of our inner circle because they are, right? They're the primary asset that we have. And so we want to thank them and make them feel really positive about that experience. So don't forget to do that. Now, nurturing prospects. We all know that growing a business takes a long time, and sometimes it can be slowly feeling like one more customer at a time. You have got to stay top of mind to these people that are considering a purchase. Now, this is true. The importance of this increases at the higher price point of your product. Okay, so if I'm selling ground beef, well, yeah, people buy ground beef. They buy it, every week or so. And so I've got multiple opportunities to make that sale. Now, if I was selling something much higher value, for instance, a half beef or a whole beef, okay, I'm probably going to, somebody who's never bought a half beef or a whole beef off the farm before, they're going to think about that a little bit longer. They're going to want some more information. They're going to have familiarity with me for a longer period of time before they bite the bullet and say, yep, I'm going to buy a half or a whole beef, because it's more dollars. And so you just got to find ways to stay top of mind. So think about, again, this goes way back to the beginning of our conversation when I said use social media to listen and think about what are the things that people are talking about? What are they confused about? Where's those gaps in knowledge? And what can I share? Can I share a recipe? Can I share some tips and tricks? Sharing information. Well, here's a baby calf. People love watching our pumpkins grow, and I love watching our pumpkins grow. So we share that, we planted the pumpkins today, and then later on when we're starting to get vines and we're starting to get flowers, we share all the way through that process. So people are kind of bought into the experience and they're growing along with us in anticipation. And that's things that our current customers are appreciating, and those prospects, we're staying top of mind with them. Another thing we share, every season we'll share something about what to do with your pumpkin when you get it home, right? It doesn't matter if you buy it from the store, if you buy it from me, I don't care where you buy it. If you want to preserve your pumpkin, here's some great tips on how to preserve your pumpkin. Okay, you might not buy your pumpkin from me now, but you're aware of me now, and you know that I provided some great information, so you might be more apt to come buy the next pumpkin that you need from me. So finding things along those lines. And then reasons to stop by. Okay, if you don't have a traditional storefront, people are so intimidated by that, so you've got to keep that in mind, right? We don't have open hours. Now during our pumpkin patch, we do, right? We have very clear open hours. When we're selling beef and lamb off the farm, you pretty well have to text or call, and it has to be evenings or weekends. And so that's kind of intimidating. It's not like walking into the local grocery store, right? So we've got to kind of give hurdles for people to get over that. So we've started doing our about every other month on-farm drive-through meat sale. Started it in COVID, and oh my gosh, one of the blessings of COVID, like the drive-through meat sale, it's fantastic. People don't feel scared like when they say, okay, we're going to pull in, you've got our order, I don't have to get out, there's going to be clear signs on where to go, I know you're going to be there, those sorts of things. And then after that, we found on average that people are buying meat in our drive-through meat sales twice, and then they just start texting. When they're ready, they want to put an order in, they say, hey, can I come on Saturday? Can I come on Tuesday night? I need this, this, and this. And that's ultimately, right, I want to get you through that drive-through, and then I want to convert you to a customer who every time you need beef or lamb, you're going to text me and I'm going to prepare it and you're going to pick it up the next evening. And so think about ways that customer experience to minimize the friction, the hurdles, things that people are a little unsure or hesitant about, to help them and give them a reason to come out and visit you. And then we already said this, don't over communicate or be pushy in your communications. If people unfollow you, they unsubscribe, they opt out, they mark you as spam, all that stuff is like a permanent, you're done. You're just not going to be able to get in front of them again. So be very cautious to not do that. Now, one of the final thoughts that I want to leave you with, all of these things we've talked about, this all has to be authentic. Okay, your customer's journey from learning about you, discovering your brand, to finally purchasing your product, and then ultimately, hopefully, to advocating for your business. Okay, that entire journey has got to feel authentic. I'm going to give you an example of inauthenticity. I want you to think about the last fast food restaurant you pulled through. Okay? You pulled through and they've got these big menus, and we're so used to this. We just know this is going to be how it's going to be, so we don't even think about it anymore. But I want you to think about the burger that was on the menu and what that picture looked like. Right? It was a big, beautiful burger, and everything was placed just right. And there was cheese and lettuce, and the ketchup, was just kind of perfectly on there. And then I want you to think about what you got in your bag. Okay? Again, we're so used to this. We know that the picture is not going to represent the product. So we don't even think about it when we get it. But that's inauthentic. Okay. We want to be so careful that the experience that people are having with us virtually actually meets the experience that they have with us when they come in person. Or the way we present our product is authentic with the reality of what our product is. We want to make sure and be very authentic in that. This used to terrify me. This terrified me because we're a pumpkin patch. We're a pumpkin patch, but we are simple pumpkin patch. Okay, we are not a fancy pumpkin patch. Pumpkin patches used to be like decades ago simple, like we were, and now there are so many cool pumpkin patches out there. They're amazing. They're like these whole. Instead of being like an hour, 2 hour deal that you go pick your pumpkin, you look at some goats, you buy a donut. They're like this whole day thing. You know, there's these awesome rides and all these ways to engage and people in costumes and face paintings and all this amazing things. So in people's minds, I was terrified when we said pumpkin patch that they were expecting this big, glorious thing. But then what they would get here, they would be like, oh, this is really just kind of a little deal. And if I had that type of, this is what I'm expecting, this is what I experience, that's not good, right? And so for us, a few years ago, we embraced this branding of a dive farm. So we've all heard of dive restaurants and dive bars, this idea of kind of a hole in the wall place. It's just very simple and local. So we embraced this idea of a dive farm. We actually sold sweatshirts, sold out of them, multiple orders of them, with this whole dive farm slogan, and really tried to embrace like, hey, we're not like, we still want you to go have your big day in the city at the big glorious pumpkin patches, because if I could do that, like I would totally do that. Those places are so cool. But that's not us, right? Like we just can't do that. It's not what we have. We just, we both have, he farms full time, I work on farm full time. This is a simple thing. I want you to know that. I want you to understand when you come, so that expectations, what you're feeling like we present in that digital experience is very authentic. When you show up, you know what to expect. You don't feel like we've taken advantage of you. You feel like it was what you were prepared for, and those things are consistent. Finally, I want to leave you with always show integrity. There is so much confusion. There is so much confusion and guilt and fear around food and purchasing decisions and marketing and labels and what's going on in our industry. Please do not add to that noise. Please find ways to market your product that celebrate the reality of American agriculture. American producers, whether they're big or small, conventional or non-conventional, are growing the most incredible food supply in the world. We spend less money as a percentage of our income on our food. The quality is through the roof. Let's celebrate that. Okay, let's find ways to really celebrate and not rely on some of these fear-based marketing, misrepresentation, inaccurate uses of labels. Let's not do those things. If you're going to use a label, I love that. I want you to differentiate your product, but do it authentically. Make sure that you are meeting the requirements of that label and that the people you're selling to know what that is, and don't misrepresent what that label means. And then finally, I'm just going to leave you with this. We all know this. A happy customer is going to tell one person, and that's powerful. That's that slow, steady growth that we need. We need them to tell one person. An angry customer is going to tell 10, and a lied to customer will tell 100 or more. So above all else, show integrity in your business. It'll be slow, steady growth, but it'll be solid, honest growth that is going to lead to a long-term business plan for you, not some sort of fast up and fast down where people feel that they've had an experience where they were taken advantage of. So I appreciate all of your time today. Clearly, I can't take questions in this format, but if there's anything that I can do, please reach out to your Farm Credit Association representative. You can find us on Facebook at Uptown Farms. Just reach out if there's anything that I can do. It has truly been my pleasure to spend some time with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.